first time I spoke here, Casey had been dead for 3 months exactly. It was on the 4th of July. And I call that my Independence Day too, because that's when I started speaking, and I haven't been able to shut up since then. Casey's probably up there going, oh, Mom. Yeah, never let me get a word in edgewise. And today it's been 7 months and 4 days since Casey was killed, so it doesn't get easier. I just don't want any other mothers to have to go through what I have gone through, or any other fathers, or any other families. And I just want to convince the world that it's not only a loss for the Sheehan family, it's a loss for humanity. When people are killed in an unjust and illegal war, it harms humanity, not just the mothers who are never going to be the same again. Okay, I wrote this on November 4th, 2004. Dear George, you don't mind if I call you George, do you? When you sent me a letter offering your condolences on the death of my son, Specialist Casey Austin Sheehan, in the illegal and unjust war in Iraq, you called me Cindy. So I naturally assume we are on a first-name basis. George, it has been 7 months today since your reckless foreign policies killed my son, my big boy, my hero, my best friend Casey. It has been 7 months since your ignorant and arrogant lack of planning for the peace murdered my oldest child. You think that you have some mandate from God, that you can spend your political capital any way that you want. George, you don't care or even realize that 56 million plus citizens of this country voted against you and your agenda. Still, you are going to continue your ruthless work of being a divider and not a uniter. George, in 2000, when you stole that election and the Democrats gave up, I gave up too. I had the most ironic thought of my life then. Oh well, how much damage can he do in 4 years? Well, now I know how much you have damaged my family, this country, and this world. If you think I'm going to allow you another 4 years to do even more damage, then you truly are mistaken. The only thing is, I'm not politically savvy, and I don't have a Karl Rove to plan my strategy, but I do have a big mouth and a righteous cause, which still means something in this country, I hope. All of this lying, fooling, and betraying must be hard work, George. You really think you know what hard work is? George, let me tell you what hard work really is. Hard work is seeing your oldest son, you're brave and honorable. Man-child, go off to a war that had and still has no basis in reality. Hard work is worrying yourself gray and not being able to sleep for 2 weeks because you don't know if your child is safe. Hard work is seeing your son's murder on CNN one Sunday evening while you're enjoying the last supper you'll ever truly enjoy again. Hard work is having 3 military officers come to your house a few hours later to confirm the aforementioned murder of your son, your firstborn, your kind and gentle, sweet baby. Hard work is bearing your child 46 days before his 25th birthday. Hard work is holding your other 3 children as they lower the body of their big Baba into the ground. Hard work is not jumping in the grave with him and having the earth cover you both. But, dear George, do you know what the hardest work of all is? Trying to digest the fact that the leader of the country that your family has fought for and died for generations lied to you and betrayed your dear boy's sense of honor and exploited his courage and exploited his loyalty to his buddies. Hard work is having your country abandon you after they killed your son. Hard work is coming to the realization that your son had his future robbed from him, and that you have had your son's future and future grandchildren stolen from you. Hard work is knowing that there are so many people in this world that have prospered handsomely from your son's death. George, I must confess that I and my family worked very hard to redefeat you this time, but you refused to stay defeated. Well, we are watching you very carefully. We are going to do everything in our power to have you impeached for misleading the American people into a disastrous war, and for misusing and abusing your power as Commander-in-Chief. We are going to scream until our last breath to bring the rest of our babies home from this quagmire of a war that you have gotten our country into. We know it's going to be an uphill battle, knowing how Republican and cowardly Congress is. But thanks to you, we know the meaning of hard work. And we're not afraid of hard work at all, and we're not afraid of you. The 56 million plus citizens who voted against you and your agenda have given me a mandate to move forward with my agenda. Also, thanks to you and your careless domestic policies, I'm unemployed, so this will be my full-time job. It doesn't pay very good. Being the political stake in your black heart will be the fulfillment of my life, and it will bring justice for my son and 1,125, so far, other brave Americans and tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis. By the way, George, how many more innocent Iraqis are your policies going to kill before you convince them that you're better than Saddam? How many more of their cities are we going to level before you consider that they are liberated? You and your minions disgust me. Have a nice day. Dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people in Iraq are being killed daily because of our president's failed foreign policies and his betrayal of us and of the world. And so this is a book, it's called A Mother's Tears. It was written by a writer in Southern California, Elliot Michael Gold. My son's story is on page 109, but we'd like to get this out to as many people as can, because I think there's only about 18 mothers and their stories in here. I'm not sure how many, but how many mothers are crying, how many mothers will never be the same because of what has happened in our country. You know, so what's going to happen now? You know, 14 permanent bases built in Iraq. What does that tell people? Does that tell people we're in there just to liberate Iraq? That's not, I don't know. That's not what it tells me. I met a lady who is trying to establish the U.S. Department of Peace. I really think they need a U.S. Department of History. And when they're getting it when the president sits down and goes, I think we should invade Iraq. The Secretary of History should stand up and go, ho, 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 ho. You better slow down there, cowboy. It never has worked before, and what makes you think it's going to work again? So really, that might be something we want to work on. I'll be the first Secretary of History. Another thing that's really, really scary to me, now we're going to do a full-scale assault on Fallujah. And what are we going to do? We're going to destroy a people to liberate them? I think you guys have read the studies that, the Lancet and some Iraqi peace organizations went door to door in Iraq and said, how many people do you know have been killed in this war? And they didn't get to go to all the doors, obviously, it's very dangerous there. And they said a minimum 100,000 innocent people. We have to humanize these people. The other side has dehumanized them. It's almost like in our early years of a country, what we did to the Indians. We dehumanized them so we can exterminate them. And these Iraqi people have to become human beings. We have to reach out to them and say, we are sorry for what our administration is doing to your country. We're sorry that our children are dead, but we don't blame you. The Jesus that Bush believes in is not the same Jesus I believe in. I come from a Christian tradition, and I come from a tradition that told me that we're supposed to love each other. Jesus said you need to love your enemies more than you love your neighbors. And I want to read something from the Christian tradition that Jesus said. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. The Muslims believe that Jesus was a great prophet, and they also believe in those words of Jesus. What I think our jobs are in the blue states is to convince the people in the red states, number one, that we aren't amoral in the blue states, that we do have morals, that our morals are what Jesus said, to love God and love your neighbor. And if you do those two things, then you don't even have to pay attention to the other commandments. And I believe that wanting a peaceful world is more in line with what Jesus would want than having a world who is at war, where innocent people, thousands and thousands, are being killed every day. He was killed on Palm Sunday this year, which also was April 4th, which is also the day that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. So there's so much synchronicity and so much symbolism in my son's life and death that we can. I think he wants us to go on with his mission, and his mission is of peace and love. He was a wonderful Christian. He went to Mass every Sunday. He went every day if he could, and he went to Mass the last day of his life, and he wanted to be a deacon in the Catholic Church. So, that is my message, is that George Bush doesn't have the same Christianity that me and my son and our family hold. So.
Question: in some cases, if the person has children, there are PDAX benefits, there is insurance, there's artifacts. That's what I'm curious about.
Well, we did get the folded flag and the picture that Tommy Silicio from the Seattle Times, that was published in the Seattle Times. Our son was in one of those flag-draped coffins. Up until then, we didn't know that the flag that the general handed me at his burial was the same one that accompanied him from the battlefield to his final resting place. And we are so grateful for Tammy for taking that picture, because how do we know if they didn't just put him in body bags and stack them in the corners? So we got the flag, we got his medals. He did get a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. We were allowed $4,700 for his funeral. I was his next of kin, so I had to sign the papers less than 2 days after we found out he was killed. We had to designate a mortuary, which is not anything you think about, for your children, and we designated the wrong one. They did try to cheat us, and the cemetery. We ended up paying about $3,000 out of our pocket for the funeral. It wasn't an extravagant funeral either. But, I think if a country sends your kid over and kills them, that they should pay for the whole thing. That's just, to me, would seem right. It wasn't really the money, it's the principle of everything. Gold stars, like every organization just couldn't wait to come over and bring me my gold star, but that's not a club that anybody wants to be a part of. Trust me, and they act like it's such an honor that they're bestowing upon you. Everything we've learned about our son's death, we've heard from his buddies. One of his friends was on leave, and he came over, and Casey died in his arms. And, not only do we have that, the military doesn't know how to deal with live soldiers. They deal with the dead ones a lot better, and over 30 have committed suicide so far from this war. And they're asked before they get to come home, do you think you have post-traumatic stress disorder? And if they say yes, you know what? They don't get to come home. They get sent to the front lines. They don't want them coming home with that. So, if you know anybody over there and they say, if they ask you that question, tell them no. Tell them, no way, no, I'm fine, I'm cool. And so then you'll get to come home. The Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans, World War II veterans are falling through the cracks, and this president we have is cutting back funding to the VA, as we speak. And, we just got to help these kids that are coming home the best that we can help them. Now we just have to fight in an uphill battle in the snow, barefoot, to get our kids home from this war. So the people in the blue states we have to solidify our efforts and what do we believe. We have to reach out to our conservative neighbors and convince them that this war is wrong, that there's mothers crying all over the world because of this war. 3 British soldiers the other day were killed in the same battle. And the last thing I want to read is a poem that my daughter wrote that got me on my activism. We had gotten so many poems about Casey and what a wonderful sacrifice, and what a great thing he did for our country, and how he spilled his blood for our freedom. And I had a real hard time struggling with that. I didn't feel an ounce more free because my son was dead than I felt before he died or was killed. I don't think they're over there fighting and dying for our freedom. So I was like, oh, this is nice. This is from their heart. They mean well when they say that. But about 3 weeks after Casey was killed, our daughter Carly came in and she goes, would you like me to read you a poem that I wrote? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because she's a poet, but she doesn't share her poetry usually, so we felt very honored that she shared it with us. This is called A Nation Rocked to Sleep, a poem for Casey by Carly Sheehan. Have you ever heard the sound of a mother screaming for her son? The torrential rains of a mother's weeping never will be done. They call him a hero, you should be glad that he's won. But have you ever heard the sound of a mother screaming for her son? Have you ever heard the sound of a father holding back his cries? He must be brave because his boy died for another man's lies. The only grief he allows himself are long, deep sighs. Have you ever heard the sound of a father holding back his cries? Have you ever heard the sound of taps being played at your brother's grave? They say that he died so that the flag will continue to wave. But I believe he died because they had oil to save. Have you ever heard the sound of taps being played at your brother's grave? Have you ever heard the sound of a nation being rocked to sleep? The leaders want to keep you numb so the pain won't be so deep. But if we the people let them continue, another mother will weep. Have you ever heard the sound of a nation being rocked to sleep? And when she read me that poem, it stunned me. I think it stunned me out of my shock. I was shocked. I was still screaming and crying. Some days I still scream. And I thought, I can't bring my son back. I can't bring Casey back. But hopefully I can bring other mothers' babies back before they are killed. We blame the man who wasn't even elected. So we have 2 goals. My 2 goals are to yell for impeachment, yell for, I guess it's 3 goals. Yell for an investigation into this war. We need a congressional investigation. There was a congressional investigation or something into, Bill Clinton getting oral gratification in the Oval Office. Why can't there be one about this war? It's a tell about and to bring our babies home. So this is my goal. This is my energy. But I can't do it by myself. I know so many of us parents and brothers and sisters of soldiers who died over there that were doing the same thing. But it's so hard for us because it's hard for us just to get out of bed in the morning. But here we are traveling to swing states, doing interviews, going on protests, marching, doing peace rallies. And we can't do it by ourselves, so we need your help. And I think it was February 15th of 2003 when millions and millions of people all over the world got together and said, no, don't go to this war, it's wrong, do not invade Iraq. And what did Bush say? He goes, oh, that's just the opinion of a few focus groups. And I think we need those millions and millions of, I think it's time to stop being polite. I think it's time for us to get out and to forcefully issue our message that we want our children home, that we want... I can't bring Casey back.
Just, this kind of sums it up for me, for my son. In his application for his Eagle Award, he had to answer the question, what is your purpose in life? And the first sentence was, my purpose in life is to serve others.
Elected 4 years ago, and who really, you know, history will judge him, I think, as the worst president in our history.